welcome to Dustin's Kaleidoscope. I'm Dustin, and today I have Neil Chambers of Chambers Design with me today. Neil, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
So, first of all, you are our first return guest, so I'm happy to have you back. Thanks for coming again.
No problem.
And I know your business has changed since the last time. Yes, yeah. Since the last time. So so I know you're doing sustainable design for residences. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So can you explain exactly what that is and how that differs from traditional landscaping, or if it's even the same?
Sure. I mean, so my business before was like around architecture and doing green buildings and doing all that stuff to help buildings be more, energy efficient and whatnot. But when I moved out to New Jersey into this area, I guess one thing, I just couldn't stand the commute anymore into the city. Like, maybe I don't know how to say that. It's like everybody commutes around here. But and I just saw there was just this real need, and so what I started to really retool my business to be a landscape design company that's focused on sustainable design and construction for residential properties.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, now we do exclusively that, and how we, just in terms of what that means. I mean, it's everything from the plants that we select being native, perennial grasses that have a easier way of managing this climate, that aren't invasive, meaning that they don't spread like crazy in the natural world. That they can create habitat for things like birds and butterflies and such, which is people really like that. They really like to be able to. Our yards are one of the places that we can interact and engage nature on a daily basis, and so often that's just not happening. And so what we try to do is allow that to happen more easily.
And how do you do this? How do you? Because I know that when we were on site, you were talking about how people have beautiful homes and yards, but they don't use the actual yards. They're just for show. So how do you make it so that the yards are more inviting?
I mean, it's really a design process. I mean, I think that there's a real difference between landscape design and landscape contractors. In this area, it seems that it's been dominated more by the contractor perspective, where there's not a real design process, where you don't actually meet with someone like myself and go through that, like images and drawings and kind of back and forth, and is this right or is that right, looking at materials, looking at plants, and coming up with a solution that's customized for your yard, and that's the process. I mean, it really is. It usually takes 3 to 4 meetings. Sometimes it takes more with the client, kind of going through stuff, helping. Whenever I start with working with someone, they always have ideas. Like often I'm like, they're like, I want to put this over there and that over there, and we really have to kind of like sift through that a little bit and kind of take it apart and then kind of engage what they want, because I don't, just with all kind of design, all kind of either it's architecture or landscapes, botany, biology, ecology. These are things that I think generally people are interested in, but they may not have a depth of knowledge about. So bringing that to the table and helping them kind of look at, just like plants and when things are going to bloom, what colors they're going to be, the textures that they can create, patios and decks and, all the stuff that we think of as outdoor spaces, and but not just being a one-off, like it not just being like, I'm going to do a patio and boop, and I'm going to do a bed, and they're all disconnected. We try to really make it one big master plan and then phase it in.
That's one of the things I really enjoyed about looking at some of the properties that you had redesigned, was that it wasn't just a patio here or just a garden here, but everything was integrated. So you mentioned that when you first meet with the client, that they have these notions of, okay, this is going to go here, that's going to go there, and it may be something that isn't it's not what you would think. How do you manage that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's just
if I want my patio there, I want it there.
Yeah, it's like, well, I mean, I go through a kind of a site analysis, and I'll kind of show them like what I see, and it's usually a really rough kind of sketch. I mean, I do everything in computers mainly, and like it's a Photoshop drawing, and I'll take their survey, and I'll outline where their house is and their driveway, and then I just start looking at relationships, and I'll start taking photos of how their yard or the house and their yard look from different places down the street or in the backyard, and start to talk to them about what they want, and I try to get away from, I want this here, and I want that there, I want this type of plant, I want that kind of plant. I try to get away from that. If they want certain functionality from that, like privacy is a big thing. Everybody wants more privacy. So it's, all right, so that becomes a goal that we'll set in this process. And then how we accomplish that kind of comes out from this organic relationship that we create through the design process, and it's a really interesting thing. I don't ever come to a project saying, this is what I think you should do. I come like, let's figure this out, let's figure out what works for you and how does this work. And so we start with that analysis. That first site analysis really helps to kind of bring the focus in on that it is a process, that it's not, again, like I often find myself kind of in this place where I'm trying to change kind of the cultural norm of landscape contractors typically doing it, and which nothing wrong with that. That's
very different from what you do.
It's a very different process. I think that people kind of want you to walk in, and either they want to tell you, this is what I want, and then you put that in. It might not be the right thing for the right soil, for the right, it might be the wrong plant for the type of light they get in that space, or the soil, or the amount of water that's there, or what's naturally occurring there. So, but they want, that's kind of like I think that's one of the social norms around here that I try to I don't want to say disregard, but I try to well, let's go through this process and let's figure it out together.
And so what are some of the things? I know you're looking at the actual physical property, but are you looking at whether or not the property slopes, whether or not there's flooding or the potential to flood? Are you looking at the amount of shade, the amount of sunlight? What types of things are you looking for? And as, for anybody who's looking at the show today, if they're looking, what should they be thinking about before they...
All that stuff is true. It's like slope, topography, water amounts. I mean, we do a lot. I really enjoy working with stormwater.
Okay.
Which, I don't know if people even know what stormwater is.
Tell them.
So stormwater is basically just when it rains, the rainwater that runs off your yard, or actually stays on your yard and floods your backyard. You know what I mean? Which is the case in this area. I mean,
right.
And that's really how I kind of started doing all this landscape design. A neighbor of mine had this backyard that would just flood every time it rained, and he was like, "What would you do?" And he said he had talked to a contractor who's going to dig a dry well and dig a pipe and have the water drain onto his driveway. And I was like, "You could do that, but it doesn't really improve your yard." And so we started talking about rain gardens and how to.
And what is a rain garden for people who don't know?
A rain garden, it's how do I say this without jargon? I mean, it's basically a garden that's made to take all this rain water and turn it from a liability or a problem into this beautiful space, right? And the rain gardens can hold more water than the rest of your yard. It filters the water. The plants are selected to be able to deal with the standing water for maybe a day or so. So it's just this incredible way of rethinking about what your yard can be, because it's very easy to take a rain garden and make it into butterfly habitat, or a place where wild edibles are going to grow, or a way to teach your kids about nature, because there's plants that grow there. So it's I mean, it's I guess the technical thing, how you make it allows the water to kind of stay in that spot, or you take it to that spot and it just
So take us through the process of, let's say I have, a huge backyard and there's really nothing in it, and it has rainwater or whatever on it. Take me through the process, like the timeline. Like, does it take 6 months for you to figure out the design with the client? Then does it take an additional 6 months? What?
I mean, it's really it's so different. Everybody is in such different places. I work with people who want to do a master plan of the yard, but they only want to spend, X number of dollars each year for the next 5 years to get it done. So we'll go through the process of designing this yard and kind of creating these graphics and images that show what it'll look like in the final piece, where beds will go, where sitting areas will go, or destination spots. I like to call them destination spots. So, from your backyard to the edge of your, from the back of your house, your back door to the edge of your backyard, what's going to pull you out into that space, right? So what's the destination that we can give? Is it a plant? Is it a bunch of plants? Is it a sitting area? Is it a hammock? Whatever it is, like kind of to engage that. And do you want to use your backyard for entertainment? Or is it your kids have a bouncy house that they want to have out there, and so we need to design to make sure that keeps, and that's been, I've had a couple of those, bouncy houses. I got to design around bouncy houses.
And I'm sure trampolines as well. They're pretty popular in this area as well.
Football, soccer, all these things. Pets, yeah. Like, so all these things kind of become the part of the process.
Right.
And then once we have the design, we'll get estimates for anything from, whether it's like doing rain gardens or dry creeks or bioswales or patios or repaving a driveway or a deck. I mean, then it kind of gets into like the contractor side where we're kind of pricing everything out.
Right.
And then we install based on whatever their budget is, whether they want to do it all at once or they want to do it slow.
And that's interesting that your clients can actually do it over a period of years, because I'm used to like people going in and whatever the project is, they do it all at once. Yep. It's not done over a period of time. So that's nice because it also, not only does it allow them to budget, but it also allows them to change, or allows you, like if there are changes that you want to see, then that'll be done as well. I think that the idea that you're going to come in and just do it once and you're finished is such a non-natural way that nature works. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you go into the reservation, the South Mountain Reservation, and what's there today is not going to be there in 10 years. It's all going to change. Right.
And we have these incredible pieces of land, around our houses that we can engage in the same way. We can actually have a master plan that allows enough flexibility to change over time. And so how do you build that in? And that's what we try to do. That's where the real kind of poetry starts.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Neil, we're going to take a break right now, but we're going to pick this up on the other side of the break. So this is Dustin's Kaleidoscope. I'm here today with Neil Chambers, and we'll be back in a moment.
Local government, local educational institutions, and local community members all use cable access TV to communicate their message. They depend upon it as an affordable means of outreach. Public educational and government access television empowers local government agencies, individuals, and groups to use the media to speak directly to their constituents in a more direct and cost-effective way. Make sure everyone has a voice. Support your local PEG channels.
Welcome back to Dustin's Kaleidoscope. I'm Dustin, and I'm here with Neil Chambers of Chambers Design. And Neil, at the end of the last segment, you rattled off a few terms that maybe some of the viewers did not know, like bioswale and dry
creek. So these are just other kind of stormwater management things. I mean, the whole idea, and I'll kind of get into these really quickly, but the whole idea is like, right now, we see stormwater as a problem, and we try to hide it in our gutters, in pipes, like French drains, all this stuff. It's all like unseen, and all a bioswale is taking a rain garden, the rain garden concept, and pulling it more into a linear form and letting the water run across the landscape above ground instead of below ground. And then it runs through kind of different plants that also help to filter it. And the whole goal of this is to make your stormwater an amenity, to make this free thing that comes out of the sky to like be something that you want to have in your yard.
Right.
It goes from like this pool and all these ponds into this thing that's like, oh, it's like a creek. It's like you discover it over and over and over. So that's really what a bioswale is. And the same thing with dry creeks. I just call it a dry creek because it's not always got water.
Okay. And I was able to come and meet with you while you were in the process of doing a new project.
Starting, yep.
Yep, and then also 2 other completed projects that one was in the, one project was completely finished, and the other one you had done, I think you're going to go back next year and finish.
Yeah, we had done the backyard. So one was completely finished. It had a bioswale,
Yes.
rain garden, and the other one that we did the backyard was 2 rain gardens, and we're going to actually do a bioswale along their fence.
Okay, so you know what we're going to do? We're going to take a break, and we're going to go and see those, and we're going to
All right.
come back, and so we're going to come back in right after this clip. So we're here with Neil Chambers of Neil Chambers Design. Thanks so much.
Chambers, yep.
Yes, Chambers Design. Thanks so much for having us, letting us come out and see what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So, take us through where are we going to go today?
So we're going to look at a project that we're just starting,
Okay.
kind of like a before shot of how a yard will look before we do our thing. The trees are coming down, so you'll get to see a little bit of that. And then we're going to go to 2 different projects that are after shots. So
Okay.
one's a little bit more of a rustic look and kind of your mountaineer kind of look, and then the other one is more of a modern twist on a Dutch colonial house.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, then let's get started then.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, we're at the site of a brand new project for
This
you.
is brand new starting. Yeah, this is starting. Yep.
And I'm just going to pan very quickly just to show everyone what they're doing right now.
This yard. So we've master planned the front yard and the backyard, and so the next step is this is the beginning of the installation. And right now they have 3 big trees in their backyard that are causing some threat and danger to their house and neighboring houses. So we got to take those down. And this is a common occurrence in this area where these oak trees or maples or whatever, when they were really small, didn't have a big deal, weren't causing any kind of problems. But now, 100 years later or 50 years later, these things are gigantic, and if we get anything like Sandy or anything like that again, these trees can fall and can destroy cars, houses, and if they hit people, they'll kill them. I mean, and these are the kind of trees that came down in Sandy, so it's not uncommon. So that's kind of like, so we often are taking down big trees like this, and like we were just talking about this, like these trees want to be in the middle of like a woodland, like 1,000, 10,000 acres of woodland, and that's what a lot of this area was before we started putting houses and stuff here. So they're not really, this isn't the right place anymore. We've modified the ecology here that these don't fit here in a safe way, the way they used to.
This is beautiful.
Yeah, what was here was like this little bitty bed that was like tucked against that fence.
Okay.
And what we did is they have all these water issues. And so what we did is that we built, come over here to really see it. We built basically a dry creek down the side of their house. So when it rains, all the water comes into this dry creek. Yeah, so this is an after kind of project where when we came here, this was just like dirt.
Okay.
It was like clay dirt. It was like compacted. When we were digging
this way, so I don't have you.
Oh, right. When we were digging here, it was really hard. I mean, it was like trying to get the shovels in the ground was just really tough.
Really?
So we amended it. What this is a mushroom soil, mushroom compost, and it's
Really?
really it's a byproduct of growing mushrooms. So in a lot of ways, we're recycling the stuff.
Right.
We're reusing it, and it's really, really high in nutrients. Just really great for plants. It does have some salt. Sometimes it has a high salt content, so you don't want to use it for azaleas and things like that because they don't like salt. But in general, most everything else does. And so we planted all this. This is all native plants. This whole backyard was just. They used to have a patio here.
Okay.
And it was raised high up. It was like you had like 2 or 3 steps down.
Oh, okay.
And so when we came in here, and I'll show you some of these images. This was just ripped to shreds. And this is the inside. You can see the inside of the.
Right. So we were on the outside before, and so this is the inside of the garden. But looking at some of the designs that you've made, I definitely would want to come out and hang out in my yard.
Yeah, that's what
because
you want.
Because it's pretty.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Like
know?
I want you to be managing water and, having really great native plants that's not destroying the ecology around you, and using grass that's using 6% less water and all that other cool stuff. But in the end, I want you to just really, oh, this is cool. I really like this. That's
Right.
really. I want it to be on 2 levels. If I get all the functionality and none of the aesthetics, then you kind of fail in a lot of ways.
So Neil, now that we've seen the clips and we've seen 3 different projects and basically 3 different stages, I noticed that you had the native garden. So we talked a little bit about that in the very first segment. And why is that important? And why do you encourage the people
Native
that you
plants versus other types?
Yes.
I mean, one thing is that they're awesome. Native plants are just they're just so awesome. I mean, they really are. People are so amazed at how many flowers grow in New Jersey naturally. You know what I mean?
Okay.
They take less maintenance. They have an ecological value higher than kind of invasives or exotics. So that's some of the reasons. And they don't cause problems downstream. Things like bamboo is a horrible.
And you see that all the time here.
All
you
the
see a
time.
lot of
And
bamboo.
where
I
you-
didn't know
and-
what's bad about bamboo.
It kills everything that's native, and the thing is that it fills in these niches that other animals and plants would be filling, and they provide almost no ecological value. So they don't create habitat for other species. They don't create food for other species. They just take up space. Japanese knotweed, which is crazy in this area as well, it's an invasive, which does the same thing. So there's these big environmental impacts that these different kind of exotics and non-natives cause, where when you use natives, you can help reverse that, and you can actually help the biodiversity of your area. You can help to restore it.
Now, is the maintenance for native gardens different from the more traditional gardens, or are you still going to
Usually
have to
there's
water?
less. I mean, there's always the weeding. You can't get around the weeding. You know what I mean? I'm it's not 100% maintenance free, but it's much less than standard kind of your traditional, because they just don't need as much water, or they're just adapted to the climate.
Okay.
They can go through the dry spells and the wet spells, and this last summer was incredibly dry, so you will have to water them sometimes. I mean, all plants, if you're going through that period, like a period like we
Right.
did, you do have to.
Okay. Other than the water gardens, the native gardens and
Rain gardens.
the rain
Yeah,
gardens
yeah.
and planting with native plants. What are some of the other things that you do?
Well, I think one of the things that a lot of people in this area are really interested in is their lawns and grass.
Yes.
I mean, grass is a big thing. I can do a perfect project, like beds, walls, patios. The front yard doesn't look good after I leave. I'm in trouble. You know what I mean? And so, grass is a big thing in this area, and how do you make it more sustainable? What species of grass should you be using? How do you keep it green all the time? I mean, on my blog, I have a blog, at chambersdesign.net/yard blog.
Okay.
I talk about yards and grass all the time, how high you should be cutting your grass, what you should and shouldn't be putting on your grass. Those little signs, those little white signs that pop up every April. All over the place. That's basically telling you that someone has turned their yard into a toxic waste dump. And it's always got this little stick person, with a big cross through it, because you're not supposed to walk on it. And then, of course, everybody, their kids and their dogs are always playing on it, and then they go back inside and track it inside. So now they're toxin. And I'm
So
like,
I take it you use organic.
yeah, or not. Don't use anything at all. I mean, there's ways of if you have the right species, you treat your grass the right way, it will grow without you needing to put chemicals and like chemical fertilizer.
That must be a hard sell here.
It's well, it is sometimes. It is. I mean, I do tell them like if you're doing that to your yard, to your grass and your lawn, you don't have as beautiful of lawn as you think you do. You're actually forcing it to look like that. So if you stop doing that, it's going to die. You're going to see weeds and things like that.
Right.
Which, you don't have, but there's other, I talk about this all the time on my blog about like letting your grass stay 2 to 3 inches long. If you need to cut it every other week, you can do that.
Right.
There's all kinds of ways to help that process go and get away from, because I mean, if your yard has got fertilizer and pesticides on it, it's basically like a drug addict who's addicted to fertilizer and pesticide. And so when you take it off, it's going to react the way that someone who stops doing drugs is gonna. It's just they're never gonna be. So you have to kind of like wean them off. How do you do that? But I've done it with bunches of people now, and they're really happy. It's like.
It's probably safer for their families to go out there and enjoy the lawn or just the backyard in general,
We put millions of tons of fertilizer on our lawns every year, and studies have found that 98% of kids in urban areas have traces of that fertilizer in their body.
Oh, really?
So it's like a big deal. It's like and there's like health issues that come around from that. So it is. I mean, like getting that stuff out of our lives is a real big benefit. So, but I think people are really nervous about it because they don't want their yards to look bad. And I think the sustainable stuff is that it actually can make it look better, less maintenance.
Well, Neil, thank you so much. Before we go, I would like you to repeat your website.
Sure. So it's chambersdesign.net.
Okay.
And we have a blog called Yard Blog, which I post on every week.
Okay.
Sometimes twice a week. I talk about different plants, like the best perennials of the time, how to deal with your yard and your grass. I also have a thing called stuff in my truck, because I'm always like carrying stuff in my truck. So I take photos. Have fun with it. But it's a real way of kind of being educational. I just wrote something about ecological succession and how you can look at your yard from an ecological perspective.
And people can contact you. On the website, they'll be able to contact you.
Phone number, email, yep.
Thank you so much for coming on and educating us, because this is very important to know.
It's
just
fun
even from
too. It's really fun.
Yeah, yes. So thanks so much.
Yep.
This is Dustin Dumas, and this is Dustin's Kaleidoscope, and we will see you next time.